Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Levy-McLeod. I'll be your moderator for today's media availability. We can take one question and one follow-up from each reporter on the line in the time we have available for today. Just a reminder to please mute your lines if you're not speaking. I'll now ask, Premier Stephen McNeil will now take your questions, and we'll start today with Elizabeth McSheffrey from Global TV.
Good morning, Premier. I'd like to ask first just for your reaction to what we saw in the U.S. Capitol yesterday.
Well, I think the entire country and globe were shocked of what took place at the Capitol yesterday, and quite frankly, more shocked by the fact that it was incited by the president. We as a global community need the democratic America, one that respects the rule of law in order for all of us to continue to have safety, quite frankly. But like everyone, I was shocked by it, and I'm grateful that cooler heads prevailed, and we ended up certifying that President Biden will take office on January 20th.
Elizabeth, you can go ahead with your follow-up.
And I'd also like to ask, just as we see a spike in New Brunswick, what consideration you're giving to any changes to self-isolation requirements for people traveling from New Brunswick? And yeah, are you considering any changes at this time?
We're monitoring what's happening in New Brunswick as we speak.
Thank you. Next, I'll go to Natasha Pace from CTV News. Natasha, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Premier, I'm wondering if you could give us your reaction to the situation yesterday, the shooting that started in New Brunswick. The suspect was apprehended in Amherst. Do you think it took too long to send out the emergency alert in our province?
Well, the alert was sent out in 7 minutes. When it was sent into EMO, within 7 minutes, that alert was distributed out. Prior to that, your question is better sent to the RCMP. I believe they need to look at their protocols when it comes to when they want to send an alert and how quickly they react. But once they gave us the language they wanted to use, it was 7 minutes before that, when that alert went out.
Natasha, you can go ahead with your follow-up.
Thank you. In light of your answer, I guess I'm just wondering, do you think that there needs to be changes? Should RCMP being the ones sending out these alerts? There seems to be such a time delay, and the PCs today are suggesting that perhaps the EMO minister, step down or be reassigned for a minister who can handle this portfolio.
First of all, Natasha, you're better than that, quite frankly, to repeat a conversation from the opposition, which is absolutely ridiculous. 7 minutes from the time it went out is the minister delivered in 7 minutes. The RCMP has an issue when it comes to whether or not they want to use emergency alerts. We've seen that. They need to fix their protocol. The opposition should actually look at the source of the issue and deal with that instead of actually looking for every opportunity to find some cheap political way to become involved in something. It's just simply ridiculous, and I'm shocked at how many times they just throw something out the door, and then I'm here left answering a question that is, has no basis of fact or foundation.
Next, we'll go to Brian Flynn from allnovascotia.com. Brian, you can go ahead with your question.
Hi, Premier. I wanted to ask you about a report the Chief Electoral Officer issued today. He's saying that there could be a delay in reporting results of a spring election because the government hasn't proclaimed Bill 225. That bill would allow early votes to be tabulated electronically. I'm wondering why this bill hasn't been proclaimed and what impact do you expect that will have on the next election?
I don't believe it'll have any impact.
Brian, you can go ahead with your follow-up.
Sure. When do you expect the bill to be proclaimed? I'm wondering why it hasn't been proclaimed yet.
I'm not sure when that bill will be proclaimed. That'll be a better question for the minister responsible for it.
Next, we'll go to Paul Legier from CBC. Paul, you can go ahead.
Yes, hi, Premier. I was wondering when the other Atlantic provinces decided to require self-isolation for travel within the Atlantic bubble. Why did Nova Scotia not decide not to go that route?
Well, we wanted to continue to ensure that there was movement within inside of the Atlantic region. We looked at the epidemiology along with public health, felt that it was okay for them to continue in that process coming in, obviously following public health protocol. You'll also remember, if you go back to the first wave, we had substantially reduced healthcare services, elective surgeries, all of those things had been reduced in the first wave. They weren't. As you know, we are the host of the IWK, which is the regional children's hospital. Many people will get services as well from the VG. So we felt with public health, the epidemiology didn't warrant that at the time. I think if you go back and look at those other provinces that made that decision, it was right around the time that public health here had mentioned about community spread. So they made their decisions, and you know, as we will with public health, look at what's happening in New Brunswick today.
Paul, you can go ahead with your follow-up.
Yeah, I understand you're monitoring the situation in New Brunswick. How bad would it have to get in the other Atlantic provinces for Nova Scotia government to consider self-isolation requirements for travelers from the Atlantic provinces?
Well, we'll work with public health and look at the epidemiology. I'm not going to speculate.
Next, we'll go to Tim Bosquet from the Halifax Examiner. Tim, go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you. Premier, I recognize that by design you're not to be involved in the details of the mass murder inquiry, but frankly, I don't know who else to ask. It's been 3 months since the inquiry has been established, and I haven't heard anything. They're supposed to put out a statement in another 3 months. Do you know anything at all about the status of the inquiry?
No, other than the three commissioners have been appointed, and my understanding is they're going about their work.
Tim, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on some of my colleagues' questions. You stated that seven minutes is adequate or even good, I guess you're suggesting, response for the alert system. And I'm wondering what you're basing that on. I've worked in jurisdictions where, you know, an earthquake requires a 3-minute or less alert, and we live in tsunami country potentially here. What do you base that 7 minutes as being good on?
I actually didn't say that. I'm sure you recorded what I said. I said from the time we received it, it was 7 minutes. I think much of your question and much of the opposition's accusations towards government is based on what happened prior to us being involved. The time lag between the RCMP deciding they needed to put an alert out and when they actually executed it. So I never said anything about the 7 minutes being good or bad. I just said it was 7 minutes from the time it came in to our office and out.
Next, we'll go to Andrew Rankin from the Chronicle Herald. Andrew, go ahead with your question.
Hi there. I just want to go back to to remain on this public alert issue. You know, obviously the RCMP has a role to play in, you know, warning people of emerging threat, but isn't it the province's responsibility to protect, like the ultimate responsibility lies with the province to protect the safety of Nova Scotians, to make sure that an alert system is in place to deal with a situation like we saw yesterday in a timely manner, not a couple of hours.
The reality of it is, Andrew, you should do a little more reading. The reality of it is the agency in charge is the one who actually has to issue the alert. It's not unique to Nova Scotia, it's across the country. The fact of the matter is the EMO in Dartmouth can't write a script about what's taking place on the ground in Amherst. It needs the agency of choice to do that. And we are not the agency of choice. It is the RCMP who are in charge of that. I'll go back to when there was an escape at the prison in Pictou County. It wasn't the RCMP who issued that alert. It was the province of Nova Scotia, because that person was in our jurisdiction, our custody. We issued that alert. You've given the RCMP lots of credit for that particular case. It had nothing to do with it. We issued the alert. That's the issue, because that person was in custody within the province of Nova Scotia. The reality of it is it's the law enforcement agency who's in charge. If it's in Halifax, it'd be HRM. In other parts of our province, it's the RCMP. And because they tweeted something, does not in any way provide the appropriate communication level for the province to issue that. One of the things that we need to be very mindful of is that we're not doing something on the ground through an EMO alert that actually hurts Nova Scotians, creates more of a problem, more of a panic. We need to make sure that we have the facts, and the facts have to come from the agency of choice. And that is a great question for them. And your 2-hour lap should be directed back to the RCMP. That's a very good question for them. And I look forward to you making that recall and look forward to their answer.
Andrew, you can go ahead with your follow-up.
I'm just wondering if you yourself have contacted the RCMP and got an explanation for this, and are you in discussions with them to address the concerns that people have around timeliness of these public alerts?
So I have not talked to the RCMP, no.
That's all the questions we have for today. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much.